What is up, Rethink Reality? We are back with another one. DJ Khaled, baby. Yes, we're here and back. And guess what? We're talking about a topic we have yet to talk about, and that's the NBA. But me and Scotty can't do this on our own. I mean, you've already seen our brain cells trying to work on this podcast. We need a little bit of some big brain power. We need someone who's been in the trenches and knows the NBA. Yes, this is my boy and Scotty's boy who brought him in, Leo. Go ahead and give yourself a little introduction, Liam. Tell the people everything about you.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And the one reason that you have me on is the one reason you need me. It's the only thing I know, and that's ball, baby. So I appreciate you. And yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Scotty actually brought in the big guns. He's constantly bringing in all these people. So everyone, just go into our email, rethinkrealityrm at AOL.com and go tell Scotty. Sometimes I struggle with it, okay? But just send us an email and then fucking give a little round of applause to Scotty. Maybe send him a DP or something. I don't know. But yeah, let's just keep it rolling. And guess what? Everyone's phones are buzzing today. It is currently February the 5th, and there was a big trade made on the line. So y'all want to talk a little bit about this or tell the boys and girls exactly what's going on?
Yeah, man. So anyone that is not living under a rock probably knows that Kyrie Irving was dealt to the Dallas Mavericks today. And it was reported, I believe, on Thursday that he requested a trade. And that kind of came out of nowhere, but at the same time, like, it's Kyrie Irving, and that's kind of what he does, is he sort of does the unexpected. And so this isn't really surprising, especially with the NBA. Like, you guys know how it is. There's all sorts of drama that takes place every year. It's this time of year, late January, early February, right before the trade deadline, and then free agency in July. It's smokescreen season, it's trade season, free agency, all that. So it's not over. The trade deadline's on Thursday, so there's probably going to be a few more superstars, at least all-stars moved in the next couple days. At least that's what we're seeing on Twitter and whatnot. So it's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be crazy. I'm curious, though, as asking you guys as sort of like casual fans of the NBA, like what is this to you, like with all this player movement and whatnot?
Dude, well, I can go ahead and say this. I mean, I'm not a complete fan, but I was watching this. I thought he was going to the Lakers. That's what everything I saw. I thought everything was Lakers. Then I saw the Mavs. I was like, man, what the hell is my boy Mark doing down in Dallas, man? He's making – Shark Tank must be busting because –
another reason not to root for Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Dallas gets him. But, yeah, it's interesting. Kyrie's a freaking – I feel like he's not Dennis Rodman, but he gives that sense of you don't know what the fuck's going on with him.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the hell he's going to do. So, I don't know. That's my take on it. What do you think, Scotty?
Yeah, I was going to ask Leo, is it normal for the player announce a trade or he wanted to get dealt Thursday? One, is it normal for players to announce they want to get dealt publicly? And two, does it happen this quickly?
With your second point, not this quickly. If he announced this like at the beginning of the season, I bet this would be like a 1 to 2 month standoff between him and the organization. But the key with this is that he's a free agent in the summer. So Brooklyn has a choice. They could trade him and get some sort of assets back. They did. They got a couple wing players that, well, they got Dinwiddie, who's a point guard, and, he'll be starting next to Kevin Durant. But, I mean, we'll see if KD's there in the next couple of days. But essentially, Brooklyn, they had to make a choice because they could either let it play out with Kyrie for the rest of the year. And, who knows? I don't think they win a title, but that's kind of their aspirations. But they lose, he's probably gone in free agency, and they lose him for nothing. So that was kind of their choice to make, and they had 5 days to make it from today. And yeah, so we're here right now.
Now, who wins that trade? Do you think? Is it the Nets or the Mavericks? Because this could be a little hot take. I don't know if you. I mean, they got who'd they get? Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then a couple draft picks, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the better answer is going to come after the trade deadline, because if KD's there, they're still going to be in the playoffs. They're still going to be competitive. They might win a playoff series or two. But strictly on paper right now, you look at Dallas and they have two guards in particular that are the best at getting their own shot whenever they want. And, People say a lot about Luka. I'm not the biggest Luka fan, but this is by far the best teammate he's ever had. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be like off ball, because has the highest usage rate in the NBA, has been pretty much since he came into the league. And so Kyrie's going to definitely take some of the load off of him, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go. Defensively, that's where the questions are already starting to be asked. You just look at those two. Those guys aren't defensive stoppers.
They don't defend.
And then Dorian Finney-Smith was probably their best defensive forward. And so he's not there anymore, and they're probably going to have to win games in the 120s and 130s, and that's probably going to be the case in the playoffs.
So bet a lot of overs whenever they play.
For sure, for player props and for the team.
Yeah, and also, too, just looking at the standings, Leo, I need a little bit of a take here. So currently Brooklyn's sitting at 4, and the Eastern Conference definitely seems to be a little bit more tighter than the West as far as the kind of from the top spot down. Because Dallas right now sitting at 6. Well, fifth place is your Phoenix Suns, but they're only a game back. Dallas is only a game back from the Phoenix Suns. And how far do you think they jump up? I don't think they're probably going to catch the Denver, which has been playing really good this year. I don't think they're going to catch them. But how far do you think they go up, and then how far down do you think Brooklyn Nets drop? Because they got the Cavs trailing them hot, and their Heat's only two games back, I believe, and then the Knicks are 3.
It's interesting that you brought up the standings, because for the first time since the beginning of the 80s, this is the most parity the league's had. By far. And so,
oh, really?
Yeah, for basketball junkies, it's been a really fun year, just because every game means something. And just looking at the standings right now, it's ridiculous. I know we're talking about Brooklyn and the Mavs, but the Lakers are 13th, and they're still thinking about the playoffs. That's kind of what Adam Silver wanted with this whole idea of the play-in tournament. So the Pelicans, they're 10th right now. Before the play-in tournament, they're thinking about, maybe the lottery at this point, right? Because there's no shot that they're going to climb up to anywhere in the middle of the standings. They might have a shot on the outside getting to 8 or 7, but with the play-in and the parity and just the overall amount of talent, man, things just are different now, and there's no games off, and you just got to be locked in every night. And so I don't necessarily think there's going to be a huge difference with Brooklyn. Well, maybe Brooklyn's going to go down, especially if they get rid of KD, then they will go down. But Dallas, I think they're going to continue to stay in the middle of the pack. I don't think they're going to get to a top 2 spot. If they're lucky, they'll probably get to 3. But I think standings-wise, it's going to be relatively static, because there's just going to be a continued amount of parity. So,
yeah, I was going to say, too, I think that trade, as much as a hot take it might be, I think it honestly favors the Nets. You look at the 2 big names with Luka and Kyrie, but you look at the way the Nets have been playing with Cam Thomas, who just came out of nowhere. Yep. And then you got KD, and then you got a really good defensive player. You said the other guy,
Finney Smith, yeah.
Finney Smith, yeah. So I don't know, man. They're because you said Dinwiddie was a point guard, and Kyrie, they're training one point guard for another, I guess, point guard. So obviously Kyrie's not a. And also too, you skip the drama with Kyrie that's been going on.
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting if he carries that over.
As good as Kyrie is, everywhere he's gone since he left LeBron, it's ended up in a pretty ugly or terrible fashion. Boston, Brooklyn. When he got traded to both of those teams, the idea was that he was going to be their point guard for the next 5 to 10 years, probably longer. But like you said, Kyrie kind of just marches to the beat of his own drum. He kind of does him, and that's where we are now with him. And so again, that's why it's such a high risk, high reward work for Dallas, because they could win the championship this year and still potentially lose Kyrie in free agency. Now, that would be pretty drastic if that happened. But again, it's a risk for Dallas. And so Ryan, I think you're kind of spot on. I don't even necessarily think that's a hot take. And if the Nets do trade Kevin Durant, then they're going to get more assets than they did for a Kyrie trade. So it might be more of a reload instead of a rebuild for Brooklyn if they decide to get rid of KD too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And also, too, you kind of talked about as far as how close everything is. I believe in the Western Conference, the Lakers are holding the kind of the bottom part of it. There's a big difference between them and the Spurs. But what about the Lakers, man? This is interesting. I mean, you got LeBron, too. There's a lot of hype around him for him chasing that record here soon. And then also, too, like you said, they're still thinking about possible playoffs. So what's your take on the Lakers, especially missing on this Kyrie trade?
Yeah, the Lakers are funny, man. Just being a Suns fan, like, you're supposed to, right? Like, I just remember growing up and Kobe Bean Bryant just, as a girl, just left me crying all the time, right? But, like LeBron, and so part of me has a soft spot for the Lakers now. For me, it's all comical because, like, as much as I love LeBron, there's always going to be trade rumors no matter, like, which team he's on because people want to play with him at the end of the day, you know? Like, you can say what you want about him, and he is older, but when he has guys around him, I mean, he went to what, 8, 9 straight finals. So it's gonna be tough for them. I mean, if they don't make a significant move outside of him and Anthony Davis, they just don't have a good team. Like Russ is not the same player he used to be, and the Lakers just overall, like they have nice pieces, but not pieces that you want next to guys that are the caliber of LeBron and Anthony Davis. So they're going to have to do something in the next 5 days. I don't know if that's trading Russell Westbrook or packaging him with a bunch of picks and other young pieces, but they're quite in a predicament. Right now they're standing at 25 and 29, 13th in the West, like you said, Pulliam. And there's just, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight for the next 4 months until we get April or May for the playoffs. So they're going to have to do something because, I mean, this roster is just a war crime for LeBron.
Yeah, I think the problem, too, with the Lakers is partly coaching. It's like, how do you answer the LeBron coaching situation? Because Darvin Ham, like, I've watched a few Lakers games this year because I've been on him, and he's just not a very, I don't know. They need like a Steve Kerr type of person. Like they need I don't know who you could compare that to in the league. Maybe like, I guess, did Doc ever coach the late LeBron at all?
He's never coached LeBron. He's coached against him several times, especially in the playoffs, but he's never had Doc.
Okay. Yeah, do you think Darvin Ham's the answer? Like, how do you think he's done this year?
Honestly, he's better than I thought. I think the hire was kind of surprising just because I'd never really heard of him. But the thing is that I think he's good for this kind of team because he's bringing Russell Westbrook off the bench. And I don't think a lot of other coaches are going to
do that.
Effect of the players and star players by making a move like that. And like, no matter who you are, like, even if you're Steve Kerr or the bottom assistant, like, telling someone of Russell Westbrook's caliber, like, even though he's not the same player he used to be, like, we all know what he used to be, and he was him, right? And so telling him he's going to have to be the sixth man, I think that's really difficult, but that's been a good career move for Westbrook as an individual statistically. He's playing pretty well this year. I think Darvin Ham has done a pretty good job with what he's had. I don't think, I mean, you could take the best coach out there, whether it's Pop, Kerr, whoever. I don't necessarily think the Lakers standing is going to be much different than it is now.
So you think it's more of a front office issue, not bringing in the right guys to center LeBron around, or? Yeah,
more so that, just because you look at the roster, and as I mentioned, like, they have good pieces, but not what you need to compete for a championship, and not what you need to have next to a 38-year-old LeBron. That's just not going to get it done. Like Austin Reeves, he's a pretty good player, but he can't be your third or fourth best player on a LeBron James championship team.
Yeah, LeBron needs like a Kawhi or someone he needs like a right-hand man, like a Kyrie or someone that's going to do good for him.
Yeah, I especially think someone on the perimeter is what he really needs. Because LeBron, he turned 38 just over a month ago, and he's averaging over 30 points a game right now. I mean, his number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous what he's doing right now. And so you just need, it doesn't even have to be a superstar. It doesn't have to be someone that's on a max contract. It just needs to be someone that can get their own bucket whenever they can. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy, but I don't think Rob Pelinka has done particularly a good job ever since the bubble championship.
Yeah.
So I would say it's more than anything, it's a front office issue more than a coaching issue.
Okay.
Because you look at the different teams LeBron has had, he's had a bunch of coaches throughout his career. And as good as he is, it's probably hard to coach a LeBron James-led team. And so with that said, I think Darvin Ham's done a pretty good job.
Yeah. Now, also too, just talking about LeBron, when's he set to actually hit this record? When's he set to do this? I know it's kind of coming up soon, within the week or two. So when is he actually projected to hit this, or when are people thinking he might hit it?
It's going to be one of the next 2 games. As of right now, he's standing at 36 points left. So with the way he's been playing, you might want to put your money and break it at next game. I think it's against the next 2 games are at home in LA versus the Thunder and then the Bucks. So you could look at it one of 2 ways. Like, the Thunder defensively aren't a great team. They aren't a great team in general, even though they're kind of fighting for that last play-in spot. He might just go and drop a 50-piece and, kind of do what he's been doing for the last couple months. He might just go off and break it swiftly and quickly. Or you could look at it as, maybe he just kind of eases and relaxes. And I don't know when they play. I know this week. Then when they play the Bucks, whenever that is, you break that record against Giannis, who has an argument to be the best player in the league right now. Like, that's also another way he might be looking at it.
Yeah. I'm just curious because if I'm LeBron, I'm thinking about, if I'm going to break this record, I want to put up like a 50 bomb and break the record,
Yeah.
So if I was him, I'd be hunting on that Thunder game. Now, Leo gave us a little bit of a midseason, a little bit of report on everything, but Scatty, is there any other midseason report that possibly we might miss? Because here, looking at the standards, or the standings, the Kings are in an unfamiliar spot right now at number 3, and then a lot of people have a lot of hype around the Clippers, but, I mean, how long has Kawhi and Paul George been there, and nothing really has ever came out of there? And then you have common people like Celtics, Bucks, and 76ers are staying kind of in the top.
Yep.
And Cleveland Cavaliers, they've been pretty good. I feel like they were good last year, but I feel like they're with Mitchell there, they've been kind of pretty good.
The Cavs are under the radar, and I want to say too, I think the winning team will come out of the West. I think the Nuggets are just such a good team. They have so much depth. Dude, look at Jokic. Dude, the dude's like, he's almost averaging a triple-double. He leads the league in assists, which is fucking insane. And, I mean, when you have someone like that who's rebounds, points, assists, and then he's making everyone else around that team so good. And Michael Malone's doing a great job with coaching and stuff like that. But when you have that much, you have Bruce Brown coming off the bench, you have Bones Highland coming off the bench, you have a bunch of other people coming off the MPJ starts, but I can't really think of any other bench players. But dude, I think the Nuggets are the team to beat.
Yeah, no, the Nuggets are really good. And going back to Jokic, I just think, as someone that's played basketball pretty much my whole life, like, I think if there was one player that I'd want to play with, it'd be him. Just because you don't have to be any kind of expert at all. And if you watch him, you just know how easy he makes the game look and just how well he sets up his teammates. Like, Jamal Murray, is probably one of the more happier point guards in the NBA because he gets to play with someone that makes life so much easier for him. So Ryan, I thought of you. Some of the reports going on about your boy Bones is that he doesn't want to be there, and that and they're looking to trade him for maybe for just like maybe one first round pick. That's kind of the rumor mill. So if he leaves, like, where are your loyalties going to go to?
Dude, I'm going to follow Bones. I think.
Okay.
I said, dude, I would love for him to go to the Cavs, but that'd be crazy. But I was thinking about getting a Bones jersey and like the retro Nuggets logo with the mountains on top. But I was thinking about getting that, but man, I don't know. I think it's more of a Tom Brady situation. How you are? You're just a fan of Brady as opposed to like the Patriots. So,
well, that's a whole different conversation, man. I was down bad when he retired the other day.
Yeah, dude. Did you see someone borrowed up a jar of sand and put it on eBay for like $700?
I think it's more than that now too.
Oh, is it really?
It's going for like $10,000 now.
What? Yeah, there's definitely some money laundering going on there. Someone's like, okay, I'm going to borrow this up, put it on eBay, and then I'm going to just be the top buyer and then send it through there, and bam, that's how we launder the money. Some fucking really smart person. Yeah, I don't know. I did see that too, but yeah, Mr. Brady, man, he put everything on the line. He put Giselle on the line, then he gives it up the next year. What the hell?
Dude, she's dating some jiu-jitsu guy now.
Yeah.
You think she gets put in the pretzel? Puts in the triangle? Isn't that what you used to tell me, Scatty?
They do probably some some weird shit, you know?
Oh shit! But yeah, so now I haven't ever asked you this, but Scotty, are you a Cleveland fan? Because I know you were talking a little bit about you're a fan of Mr.
Yeah.
Bones, but so
Yeah, I'm a Cavs fan. I like Cleveland and everything, but Bones Highland went to VCU, and I grew up watching VCU basketball, so that's where my loyalty is. He's by far been the most successful coming out of VCU. That stands for Virginia Commonwealth University. If you're not from Virginia, you might have heard of him. We made a couple just one Final Four run, but we've had some decent success in the tournament. But we're more of a lower level to mid level school. Yeah, so that's my loyalties to Bones.
who are you picking? VCU or Tech? If they ever saw each other in the March Madness?
VCU easily.
Hey, Tech got a big win the other day.
They did. They needed that too.
Yeah, to stay in the tournament, to have the tournament hopes alive, they needed to win that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Couture a senior?
I don't know, to be honest. Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He is. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can just watch kind of scores sometimes of Tech basketball. I never watch Tech sports just in general end up disappointing me to a point where I just can't watch anymore. So,
Dude,
unless baseball season comes around, then I can watch. But besides wrestling,
talk about Tech having a big win. How about Oklahoma, Leo? You go to Oklahoma now, so they had a big win I think it was like a week ago, right?
Yeah. It was last weekend. They beat number 2 ranked Bama at home. I was at the game. I was working the game. I worked for the marketing department, and I was up controlling like the music and the lights and whatnot. And yeah, the students just lost their shit and stormed the court. I have a cool video of it. It was a lot of fun.
What song are you playing when like that victory song comes on, or what? Like you hit the dagger 3 and then the opposing team calls a timeout. What song's getting played?
They won't let me control that. That goes strictly. I'm turning off the lights like for the national anthem and like when we announce our players and whatnot. And then for music, I'm basically like the backup, and so I just basically have like different instrumental like rap beats and whatnot. It's pretty cool. It's a super easy job, but dude, we beat Bama. It was a great win because OU was a bubble team then, and then we had Bedlam, which is all that means OU versus OSU. Played them at home on Wednesday night, lose by like 20, and then we played at West Virginia last night, lose by like 30. So OU's probably toast for basketball. They're not a good team this year.
Dude, if I'm you, I'm suggesting this song.
I feel like the whole crowd would go nuts. A little EDM fist pump. People just start fucking spazzing out.
See, dude, the thing about OU, and it probably makes sense that the students don't really care about basketball, especially now since the team is so mid. Like football here is like actually a religion. People lose their minds. They go crazy.
Oh,
how's the tailgating out there? Is it tailgating?
I wish it was like that at Tech.
I think Tech's tailgates are better, and it's mostly just like because of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tech people are more just OU people. I think are more prideful just because of like the history of how good they were.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah, Tech, I mean, for the most part, you win a game, you're going downtown. You lose a game, you're going downtown. It doesn't really matter. Whatever the score happens, you're still having a good time. Like, no one really gives – at least unless you're either Drew or Meadows, then you're losing your mind, you're pulling your hair out, and you're cussing at everybody. You're completely completely hating life. Those are probably the only two people I know that actually Tech fans who really care that much about Tech anymore. But to turn, I guess, back to the NBA, Leo, I want you to talk about your team a little bit because I believe, now I haven't been keeping up as much recently, but I know at one point Booker was out. Maybe he's already back already. But the Phoenix Suns, I feel like it's kind of weird this year because most of the time they've been so dominant in the regular season. I think it was the past 2 seasons.
Yep. And
now they're sitting almost around 500. So how are your little Suns doing? They're trailing the Clippers right now.
Yeah, so the thing that the NBA season, 82 games, it lasts over like 7 months. It really is a marathon, not it's been fun the last 2.5 seasons in particular as a fan, just because from like 2010, 2011 to like 2019, I mean, they probably had the worst win percentage out of all the NBA teams in that span. And that just sucked being a fan. And so the last 3 seasons have just been really rewarding and gratifying. It's just been super fun to watch them. And that year they went to the finals. It was cool because we got Chris Paul out of that trade, and it was almost like a college team. Like they were just really young, Booker was an all-star, but no one really gave him the respect that I think he deserves. And then over the last couple of years, man, they have just been, I mean, they've kicked everyone's ass. Unfortunately, it's been at the time where it doesn't really matter, and that's the regular season. And things change when it comes to the playoffs. Games are ref differently. The crowd's more into it. They're louder. It's more intense. And so, yeah, right now they're sitting fifth. Like 3 weeks ago, they were sitting 12th. And I think that just kind of goes to show that, like I said, I keep going back to it. A marathon, not a sprint. You know, it feels great right now because we haven't actually been a top 6 seed probably since before Christmas. Book hasn't played since Christmas Day, and he only played for 2 minutes because he hurt his groin. And so there's been a lot of injuries. We've been signing guys that I have never heard of that are on 10-day contracts and whatnot. But the team's starting to get healthy. They're starting to get whole. And once we get Book back, which I think he's playing on Tuesday, and at that point he would have missed like 26 straight games or something, things are starting to look up. And I think if we make a trade, which we should, or two, and then Book gets healthy and stays healthy, we're going to be a top 3 seed, and I don't think anybody's going to want to fuck with us come playoff time.
Well, what's your take on that trade? What trade do you want to see your Phoenix Suns make?
So, I mean, I don't know, Pulliam, if
he wants KD.
Yeah, Brian knows. I don't know if you heard last year over the summer, like June, July, Kevin Durant said his preferred trade destination when he requested a trade were the Phoenix Suns. And I'm obviously biased, but with Kyrie now requesting a trade and now being traded, I don't think that's changed. He was very adamant about wanting to play with Book as his wingmate and CP3 as a point guard, and I don't think a lot's changed.
What do you give up for that, though? Like, you're going to have to give up a couple first-rounders, probably
yeah. 4 picks at the least, and then DeAndre Ayton and Cameron Johnson. I don't want to give up Mikal Bridges. If you asked me 9 months ago, I would have been like, yeah, you can give up Mikal Bridges, but he's kind of come into his own. He's the one player throughout this whole time that's been healthy, and he's played like 350 or 60 something straight games. It's by far the longest active streak in the league, and he's coming into his own. He's finding his form, and he's been averaging almost 24 a game in like the last 10 to 12 games. So, I mean, you can either look at it as, oh, like that's really good trade stock, or that's just another piece that we can, keep alongside a top 10 player in D-Book.
Yeah, I got you. And I'm here just, if you exclude the Nuggets, I know you were talking a little bit about the kind of parity of everything and how tight it is. I just kind of did some simple math in my head. The Grizzlies compared to even the Los Angeles Lakers, I believe it's 7 games is the difference between the 2 spot and the 13 spot. So the West is, I mean, I guess because you made that comment talking about the Phoenix Suns jumping up, and I can completely see that why. I mean, it is. Man, it's tight as, I guess, my butthole when I used to go try to throw a baseball there in Bridgewater. I mean, holy shit. It's a tight one. It's a tight race, so this should definitely be interesting. Now, how many games are kind of left, or how many months are left? Because I do love watching the NBA, but I don't know. I can't remember exactly when the playoffs start for NBA.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, dog. Basically, we're more than the halfway point. We're probably like 60-65% of the way through. Playoffs always start like anywhere between like April 15th to April 20th. And the first round's a lot of fun just because there's games every single night. And like I said, that playoff atmosphere when it comes to NBA hoop is just different. And I think you just ask the casual fan who's going to watch a regular season game versus a playoff game, like even they can point out all those differences. And it's a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be a really, really great playoffs, especially in the West.
Yeah. And I want to ask also another question because me and Scotty, we do a lot of conversations with football. And Scotty, I want to ask you this. What do you think about like NBA compared to football? Because in a sense, talking about Kyrie, there's not a lot of football players making decisions like, oh, I want to up and leave, and then they just do it. It's a lot more of a sense of, no, you're going to have to get the general manager involved. Like, for instance, Kareem Hunt. Like, I definitely feel like he wanted to leave, but it wasn't on his own to do that. But the NBA just seems like it's more open to just kind of like players end up doing where they want or going where they want to go.
Yeah, I don't know why that would be. Leo, you might know that more than I do.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to attribute that to LeBron and sort of like the cliche phrases like the player-led movement, player empowerment movement, right? And as a basketball fan, I like that. As an NBA fan, I like that just because shit's different every year. The NFL, it's just that I don't know if it's the owners have more power or more money or what. I just think you're dealing with, I mean, you have to have, 53-man rosters, and that's not even counting like practice squad people and all of that. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what they have going on, but if you're a top 10, top 15 player in the association, then oftentimes you get to dictate your future. And, some people think that's cool. Some old timers probably don't like that as much. Like I mentioned, I think it's kind of cool, but when it comes to football, man, I mean, Pulliam, it's a whole different world. And ultimately, like, I don't necessarily know why that players have more power, but I think part of it is the number of players. And so you're dealing with less people. And, trades are just easier to make in the NBA than the NFL because a lot of the financial rules are different. It's the NFL is a hard cap league. So in the NBA, essentially, like you're going to have your salary cap, but you can go over that, and the owner is going to pay what's called a luxury tax. So if an owner is super rich and super all in on their team, they can, theoretically get the 5 best players that they want and pay them a shit ton of money, but their tax bill is going to be absolutely absurd. In the NFL, you can't do that. It's a super hard cap, and it's a harder game to play. So there's a bunch of, but I definitely think financial is probably the strongest aspect of that.
Yeah. I find that interesting because I know some people appeal more to the NBA just because it's just a player-driven league. They do whatever kind of the hell they want to do, and if they want to make that move, they'll make that move. But for the NFL, it's definitely a little bit more stagnant. Now, also just shooting the shit about the NBA. I get on my phone, I get on Instagram, and I swear the NBA's turned into World Star. It's like fights every day now. There's people. I think Donovan Mitchell got hit in the Family Jewels.
Yep.
Mo Bamba's like throwing stuff and getting all pissed off. I believe there was a fight before that. So is it just a coincidence or what's going on?
I think those two are a coincidence. With Donovan Mitchell, man, I don't blame him. If I was in the same position, I would have done probably worse. Like if I'm getting hit.
Dylan Brooks is known for that, though, right? Like he's just known to be a dirty player, I feel like.
When Spider was in Utah, Book, Steph Curry played, like all best players on prominent teams, especially in the West, because that's where the Grizzlies are. Most of those stars aren't going to like Dylan Brooks that much. And, as a fan, I kind of appreciate Dylan Brooks. I think the Grizzlies are a fun team in the sense that they just talk a lot of shit, man. And some people like it, some people don't. When you lose to them, you're going to hate them. When you beat them, you're going to talk your shit. And I think that's the fun thing about the NBA, especially in the last couple of years. I think that's an ingredient that they've been missing. I don't necessarily think there's going to be fights every night like there have been the last couple. Plus, players don't want to fight, man. Like, you don't actually see punches being thrown and whatnot. They're little scuffles, but I like it. I think it makes the game more entertaining. I hope they continue. I don't think they will, but I hope it does.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. But I'll be honest, it's not even just the players. My boy Shannon Sharp, I guess he took all that pain out. Dude. He just went up the court. He's like, hey, y'all talking shit because you're talking about the Grizzlies. They love talking shit. And he was chatting so hard. And I was curious on both of y'all's takes on that because if you think about this, compared to the NFL, compared to the NBA, the NFL, you're sitting kind of way back as far as it goes. Like, you're not on top of the players. Like, the only people really talking shit are the people on the field. So, in the NBA, if you're Shannon Sharp, for instance, you're courtside, man. Someone chirps, you're right there. So, something can pop off. Now, a lot of people talked about, well, this was really bad because Shannon Sharp basically just allowed for other people to walk on the court and, like, do this. Because if he did it and got away with it, then other people are going to be able to get away with it. So, I was curious on both y'all's takes and what you thought about that. But I thought that was kind of funny.
I thought it was hilarious. Sharp, he cracks me. I don't really watch Undisputed that much, but like I do. It's like a Shannon Sharp clip that I see on Twitter, and he's just losing his mind, and I can't help but not everyone's Sharp. So like, if all of us are at a Laker game and we just decide to talk our shit, and we're courtside, and like we go out onto the court like Sharp,
we're getting kicked out.
We're gonna kick, because we're not him, and so like. It also sucks for other people because maybe that sets a precedent and have some drunk asshole who thinks he's him and can just go do the same thing. The result's not going to be the same, and so that's just kind of life right there, Like,
and I would also say too, you got to have so much respect for NBA players because they're human too. And when you hear a "fuck you, LeBron" or "fuck you, Morant," it's like that shit would get under my skin, but they because they have people sitting courtside, they have to hold themselves to a higher standard. And man, do they do a good job, because they're probably hearing all sorts of shit. They're you'd like to think majority that's the people rooting for him that's like, hell yeah, Bron, good shot, Bron. But dude, you're always gonna. Do you know how many fuck you LeBrons he's probably heard in his career, and you don't hear him talk about it. You don't hear him complain to the media about it. And if you listen to him talk to the media, it's always, this loss is on me. I got to be better. We got to be better as teammates. We're gonna come out and we're good. Like he's never complaining. And I think a lot of people like to shit on LeBron, I guess, because of some of his political takes. But dude, you have to respect that man. He's never once gotten into trouble with the law. He's raised a good family. Look at Bronny Jr. Killing it, and I forget what his other son's name was, but he's also at Sierra Canyon. Bryce, yeah. But dude, he's like the model person. I mean, I don't want to say he's the most. I think he is the most influential. I'm not just saying that because of the newer generation. So I think like LeBron versus MJ. I'm not just saying that because I grew up watching LeBron, but MJ didn't. I mean, MJ had to deal with that stuff too. But the world we live in now and how politically correct you have to be, LeBron's navigated that so well, in my opinion. It's just, I don't know. That's just what I think.
Well, with LeBron, I mean, when people are chirping him, he's not really worried about that. He's just trying to figure out the rap lyrics and how to get that all set up when he's recording the videos. Because I know sometimes he struggles and has those moments when he's posting the videos. He just wants to be a part of the trend, you know. So I think it's more of stuff in his head's going on.
I think, but Ryan, that's a great point, man. I think like either a day or two ago, like he is like the best face of the league, because for the
he really is.
Like he's never been like. There's no photo of him out in public where like he's absolutely hammered. Like he's never cheated on his wife, that he's never like in trouble with the law. Like you said, there's obviously like political takes that, you know, some people are going to agree with, some people don't, and that is what it is. But like in terms of being a face of the league, at least in my lifetime, man, it's going to be hard for me to see someone top that.
Yeah, and you look at like, I mean, you never hear it. I mean, maybe it happens, but you never hear about it. But you look at like Brady, that whole shit that happened with Gasell. You look at like a public figure like Dana White, he's slapping his wife. You never hear about LeBron about anything like with that shit. So I just think it's very impressive. And LeBron, if you're somehow watching this, hats off to you.
If LeBron watches this, I'll come to Pittsburgh and give you a little love. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
Give me a little sloppy toppy, huh?
hey, I might have to, you know. But yeah, I think it is interesting because you have MJ who was like polarizing just from the point of his influence with shoes and his influence with the game. And at the time, the NBA, I also feel like an NBA when MJ came into it and then what he made of it, it wasn't the same as what it was once he got there. So he like changed the game in a big way and brought a lot of people to want to watch basketball. I feel like LeBron, in a sense, he's like you said, he's also done stuff with shoes, but I feel like he's had more of an impact on community and more impact on what he does outside of basketball. And then also he's just a legend on the basketball, like hitting all his records. But I feel like he's done a little bit more in that sense compared to MJ. So like comparing those two as far as
LeBron's had to navigate the rise of the internet, which MJ did not have to do. And you always have someone recording. So if you're walking off the floor, maybe there was obviously cameras back then when MJ was, but he didn't have someone recording him almost 24/7 while he was on the floor, and they could get exact words of what he said. So LeBron, I mean, just from that perspective, he's navigated that really well. I mean, he basically grew up with the internet as to what it is now. But yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think it's just to compare LeBron and MJ, or do you think it's unfair because they, in strictly terms of playing ability, do you think it's unfair to compare the two because they played in different times? Because back in like the 90s, LeBron had like the bad boy, MJ had like the bad boy Pistons with that like group of four people. And I guess you could say that's kind of the Memphis Grizzlies now, but no one really plays that hard mouth ball anymore. It's more of a softer league, I guess. Like refs are calling fouls left and right. I don't know how it's gotten now, but do you think do you think you can compare the two? Mm-hmm. And two, if you can, who's better?
So I'm a LeBron guy. I like MJ, especially after watching. I'm guessing you guys saw The Last Dance, right? Like there was no other shit. That was a really cool documentary. Kind of Ryan, like how you did, like with the internet and whatnot. Like there were clips that the world had probably never seen up until that documentary, right? So LeBron walks off the court, and there's a clip of him on Twitter, in a couple seconds. So that's definitely different. When it comes to comparing them, I like to think that any great player, like if you're a great player, man, you can play in pretty much any era. LeBron could have played in the 80s and 90s, and he would still be one of the best players. If MJ was playing right now, he would probably average close to 35, 40 points a game. Both of them are incredible. I think LeBron is the greatest player of all time. He's definitely the best player that I've ever seen. It's hilarious because I don't think of LeBron as a scorer. Like, he doesn't look... There's a lot of great talented scorers in the NBA, but there's guys that make it look so smooth and so fluid. Like Paul George is an example. Devin Booker is an example. LeBron doesn't necessarily look fluid when he's scoring just because he's a freight train. He's a powerhouse. He's just putting his head down and going. So a lot of people don't think of him as like a natural scorer. And he's about to break the freaking all-time scoring record in the next couple days. And I think that's just a testament of like who he is as a basketball player. Like, yeah, are his weaknesses, but relative to everyone else, you would still take those weaknesses over a lot of other players. And I think at this point, man, it's hard to say scoring is a weakness for LeBron because he's averaging almost 30. But man, he just does so many incredible things. I've been watching him since I was like 2006 was the first time that I remember seeing him, and just seeing his growth as a player, going from Cleveland and Miami back to Cleveland and just doing his thing there that second time. Like, I think 2018 LeBron might be the greatest player I've ever seen. Do
you think that record ever gets beat? That scoring record?
It's gonna be tough, just because there might be better scores than LeBron per se, but just the longevity of it, dude. Like, he has to spend millions and millions of dollars on his body every year to be 38, guys. Like, that's crazy. This shit doesn't happen.
Yeah. Now, just to kind of play a little devil's advocate and kind of rally up a little bit.
Stir the pot.
I agree. LeBron is better than MJ in a sense of he didn't do it with just one team. He was able to go to a different team and other teams and still perform the thing. Like when MJ left the Bulls, I mean, it's not the same.
Right.
So in another sense, though, LeBron, as far as we're talking NBA Finals and that conference championship and that whole entire record, he's not near as clutch as MJ. So what do you have to say as someone who's sitting here and looking at, well, MJ, he's a dog when he gets into it, but LeBron, though, he's had a lot of opportunities, and maybe it wasn't just him, but when it came down to it, he didn't get the dub. So what would you have to say to someone who's countering you in that sense?
No, that's a great point, honestly. When you look at it just like strictly like the whole GOAT debate thing, man, it's hard to overcome, 6-0. Like, that is, you're undefeated in the finals. You were clearly the best player in the finals every year, and you were pretty much the sole reason why your team won. And MJ has a collection of highlights where he was clutch in the playoffs, especially the finals. We all know Game 6 against the Jazz, right? But when it comes to LeBron, yeah, maybe he's not clutch. I'd be curious to see like actual statistics of that, but I don't think any other player in the history of the game can carry a team like he can. Maybe he doesn't necessarily get it done all the time in that final game. But like, for example, I think the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant is the greatest team ever assembled, especially in the modern day, the way the game's played. I think like the whole idea of like the 2017 versus the 97 Bulls and Warriors, I think that'd be a great series. But just look at the way the game's played right now. I think that Warriors probably wrap it up. And that same year, I don't think any team, and Ryan, I know you watched that Cavs team with LeBron. That team fucking sucked. That team was garbage.
Yeah.
They had Mo Williams and Jeff Green, these dudes that are ancient history, right? I mean, some of them are still... Yeah. Jeff Green is kind of still doing his nuggets and whatnot, but that team was not good. And there was no reason for them to be in the finals. They shouldn't have beat Boston with Jaylen Brown and Tatum that year. And then the whole J.R. Smith thing, right? Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. In that first game.
He dribbled it out. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no reason for them to be in that game. But LeBron had like 50-something points, double-digit assists, like 9 or 10 rebounds or something. I just think yeah, like resume-wise, 6-0 is sexy, and it's hard to say that's not the best, right? But just from my eye test, there's no player that I've ever seen that can carry a team, especially a mediocre one at that, to almost an NBA Finals.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to what people measure success as. If you're going to measure it in certain accolades like championships and MJ, but if you're going to measure it in points scored and assist leaders and three-pointers made and all the individual stuff. I mean, LeBron still has the championships to back it up, but like you said, when he's on that dog water team, I mean, dude, if you replace MJ in that team, do they still win? I don't know. Nobody's going to know, but yeah, like you said, LeBron played in that worst team. And the fact that they beat the greatest team ever assembled, in the wise words of Leo Reynolds, I think that's something to say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too, man. As a fan, watching that 3-1 comeback, that was probably the most insane thing ever. It will always be a meme. I don't know. I think it does beat the Atlanta and New England game comeback, but it's just insane to see exactly all that happen because I think it was just really just him, Kyrie, Kevin Love. That was kind of what made up that team. I mean, they did have JR. The boy was running around with the shirt off after all that stuff, having his fun, but that was crazy to me to see LeBron take over a series. Now, people could say, yeah, Kyrie hit that clutch shot in the end that ended up winning and getting them to where they need to go. And I don't know, though. All I remember is just LeBron on that whole series. That was a very big moment in his career, I feel like. Even compared to when he went down to the Heat. Some people used excuses and said something about the Heat, but when he came back to Cleveland and then brought the championship to the Cleveland, I thought that was kind of insane and something that Jordan never really touched on in a sense of coming back to another team or moving and going from the Heat and then coming back and just getting the dub against a Golden State Warrior team that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of the sports memories that I will remember, where I was and what I was doing and how I was feeling when that happened. And that shit was crazy, man. That shit was absolutely crazy. Steph Curry was on JJ Redick's podcast a couple months ago, and he said, JJ, asked him all sorts of questions about Steph's career and whatnot, and 3-1 was included in that. And he was basically saying, as a player, when you're in it, you're not really thinking about blowing, a 3-1 lead and, losing game 7 at home and whatnot, especially when you had the best regular season of any team. But he said that he has never seen two guys so focused and honed in and played so well cohesively than Kyrie and Bron did then. And I think that just kind of summed up what the Cavs were that year. They were a good team that year. They had good pieces with JR. Kevin Love was still kind of probably at the tail end of his prime, but he was still really effective.
Tristan Shumpert was really bad.
Who?
Shumpert?
Oh, he was disgusting.
He wasn't great. Tristan Thompson was really good because of his rebounding. He was so good in that final series that he got $80 million from the team.
Yeah.
That. But yeah, it really it comes down to those two. And one of my pet peeves is when you compare players from different eras. So if it's more so modern versus the 90s and 80s, you can just use MJ and LeBron as an example and talk about how LeBron has had so many better teammates and whatnot. But the thing is that he's had to, because the players today, collectively as an NBA, are so much better than they were 20, 30 years ago. And that's what's so interesting about the regular season now, is that you could look at the Grizzlies and they play the Magic. Man, that doesn't matter. Yeah, sure, the spread might be 10.5 and, everyone's expecting the Grizzlies to win. I expect the Grizzlies to win. But there's just no guarantees in the NBA anymore. Their teams are too good. The talent is just too much. Even in the G League, man, there's guys that are just so incredibly talented. And when
in Europe, too.
What's up? Yeah.
In Europe as well.
Yeah, that's a trend right now, is, so many scouts for these organizations are in Europe kind of looking for the next Jokic or Luka or whatnot. But also with the contracts, you got 10-day contracts, you got 2-way contracts. So if for the Suns, for example, yeah, they had all those guys out, right, except for Mikal Bridges. But we got dudes on 2 ways in 10 days that are fighting for their life. So maybe no one like you and I have heard of them, but they're going to give everything that they got because they're fighting for a contract to play for, the next 3-4 years at the very least. So the talent is just so much better than it used to be. And That's why I think when you use the argument like, LeBron's had D-Wade and Chris Bosh and Kyrie and Kevin Love and all of this and that versus like Larry Bird had like two really great teammates for a long time. I just don't think that's applicable anymore because the league is just so different than it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. And also, too, in the sense everyone talks about the league being softer. I think that allows for, like, for instance, LeBron James to play as long as he has and probably to continue to play as long as or for a couple more years, because with the softer calls and all that, people aren't going or aren't fouling as much. I can't remember where I heard this, but they were talking about, I think it was Stephen A. was talking about this actually on the Nelk Boys podcast. And he was talking about how when, for instance, Steph Curry drives, back then in the day, people, like when you would drive in and go for a foul, people would sometimes flinch when all those bodies would come up. But now, a shooter, you're like trying to go at the defender, so that way you can draw the foul. So in a sense, that's changed the game revolutionary. I mean, look at James Harden; he's made a career off just drawing the foul. So, and back then that really wasn't a thing. Like people actually making a career out of that. So I think it's interesting to see like how the game's revolutionized in that way. And I think also too, there's been more of an emphasis on more view. And as an NBA person, they're probably thinking we're going to get more viewers if we get more people, more scoring and higher score totals and all that sense. And I think that's the same way. Because if you look at the NFL, they're protecting more QBs because they understand the money's not in the defensive line. It's not in the offensive line. It's in keeping QBs that you can sell, you can make commercials off, and you can really just brand that on your, like for the NFL and allow longevity and to pump it up. So I think it's similar with NBA. Not only have they gone soft for protecting key players, but that's just, it makes the game better. It makes people want to watch. And I think that was more of a business move compared to just the game progressing as time goes.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Especially like bad quarterback play in the NFL, it just sucks. Like I was so excited for that NFC Championship game last weekend, and just seeing Johnson or whatever his name is, like respect him because he's like a 15-year like backup QB. Like that's good in itself. Like good for him. Like he's gonna get his bag and be rich for the rest of his life, but. Man, you just have no chance if you have a bad QB, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. And like the same thing with the NBA, like you hear it all the time how it's like a star-driven league, and that's so true because there's there's one face of the league in the NBA, and we all know that's LeBron. But man, when he retires, the league's going to be such in good hands because of the sheer amount of talent and the faces of the league,
young talent.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of worried about that because I thought LeBron, like when this must have been like 2015, 16. It was like, shit, like LeBron might retire in like 5-6 years in 2020. And who the hell knows is going to like take the mantle from him. But it's in good hands. And especially with this parity that we have going on right now, I hope it continues because it makes for some entertaining ball.
Yeah. I mean, that's how the NFL is because I think if you exclude Tom Brady, as far as the people who made it to the playoffs, the age for the QB, it was insanely young. It was anywhere from I think it might have been like 26 or 27 and down. It's just so much youthful talent. So that's the same sense with NFL. I know a lot of people when Tom Brady, if he was going to retire or if Aaron Rodgers ends up retiring, there's just so much other people in the NFL where it's not like there's going to be this big what's your next move? Nah, it's already set up. So I was curious to ask that about the NBA because I personally don't. I mean, I know you have Luka and you have your boy Devin Booker, Tatum. You got Giannis and a couple others, Jokic, and a couple others are just young and just awesome players to watch. So I was just curious too as far as how it goes for the NBA and how it was for that.
Yeah. See, the only issue with that is. And you guys see it all the time because, like, Ryan, I know when you're betting on it, like, you're seeing a lot of these superstars are missing double-digit games. Like, AD and Book have almost missed 30 games this year.
Zion, what a bust that was.
Yeah, like, man, he's so good when he plays, but the issue is that he's not playing a lot, right? And so I think there was a list that came out a couple nights ago, and it was essentially, like, 10 of the best 25 players, and a lot of them have missed double-digit games, and that's the one thing that I think is probably going to continue. And it's not necessarily the player's fault because the game is just played differently. It literally is a marathon. Like you have a 3-on-2 fast break. Like 20 years ago, everyone's thinking what? A layup. So you have the guy guarding the ball. You got the dude streaking to the rim. The defender's got to take that person. So that leaves one person open and they're probably taking a three and they miss it. They're running back the other way. the game is just so much more up and down than it used to be. I don't necessarily think like load management is annoying because you ultimately want to see the players play. But I think the biggest reason for that is because the way the game's played now. And the training staffs are so much bigger than they used to be. There used to be only like 2 guys on a training staff 20 years ago. Now there's guys that are dedicated just specifically for like different parts of the body and whatnot. Like training staffs on these teams are huge. And so there's a lot more opinions. There's a lot more voices. And so with a fast-paced game, I think players are going to continue to sit out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's the same way with somewhat with NFL. As far as people coming back, most of these big teams where you're talking about big stars are missing these games. As long as they're in the playoffs, they feel like that's all that matters. Because no matter what, maybe now if you're in the top seed, maybe get that bye, then that's different.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having to go through that the play-in tournament. That's one thing, maybe making that push. But a lot of these teams just want to make it to the playoffs, and as long as they have their big guns in the end and they can shoot them when it's during the playoffs, that's what they're kind of hoping for. So yeah, I didn't even know that really about people missing a lot of games. I know there's a lot of times people like taking rest and stuff like that, but I didn't know it was kind of an issue right now in the NBA.
Yeah, the rest is often just it's decided by the training people themselves. Like I think, like I worked with like now 3 NBA players at one point, like Mehmet Hill and Justin Robinson. I don't think are in the league anymore, but like I feel like working with high level Division I basketball players, I get a sense of like just how freaking competitive these humans are. And so I think if it were up to them, 90% of the time they're going to want to play every time because like they still got money to play for and everything like that. They still got accolades they want to hit to get bonus money and everything. So I do think it's on the training staff for wanting them to sit out. Yeah, like in the NFL, you're absolutely right, Pulliam. Like a lot of the times, the teams that get to the Super Bowl are the healthiest ones, and like the Chiefs and Eagles are clearly the 2 best teams in the NFL, and they have been all year. But in the playoffs, I mean, you've just seen them roll people because they've been healthy, especially the Eagles, man.
Yeah, man, we're firing on all
Don't get
portions.
started.
I can't
Don't get
wait
started.
to do it. All our other pod, I've been chirping Meadows. Before I came into the last pod, I called him up and I was just giving him hell. And he was talking about, oh, just wait till they lose. And I was just chirping about Dak. I was chirping about everything, man. I can't wait to see my boy the Phillies get it done. I think they're going to get it done because you're talking about people being hurt. The Kansas City's kind of limping to the final right now.
Well, defense get injured last game, didn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's still suffering. Somehow, I know Travis Kelce was going to play no matter what, but he was suffering with some injuries too coming in as far as some back spasms he had. But I know it's going to be a tall task. I think in order for that game, I think Mahomes is going to have one of those crazy games because I don't see Philly turning it over because Jalen, I mean, the way we play, we don't really throw it. The only way we're going to turn it over is if you pop the ball out when we're running. Mm-hmm. I mean, last game, I don't even know if he had 100 yards passing, and that's just not how we play Philly. It's a lot of RPOs and running around and just giving different looks. So that's one thing I do like about Philly is we've set up our offense to a point where as long as Jalen doesn't make anything crazy, stupid throws, we're not going to turn it over. And then we got a good enough defense that we believe that can keep us in games. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But we've talked a lot about the NBA and we've talked a lot about kind of some standings. But the viewers need some money. They're a little desperate right now. They're sitting in the corner. They're probably sitting in the homeless shelter if they've been listening to Scatty the past couple pods. Now, they're eating the soup, and they need some kind of bets. They need something to get them going so they can bring some little to the bank. So, boys, what kind of dialed up play or what kind of dialed up bets can we roll out? I know Scatty was pretty high on Jokic, and is that something maybe you want to throw a little sprinkle on MVP candidate there possibly? I don't know what the odds are or how favored he is.
I think he's minus 115 right now, so he's definitely the clear favorite. But when you look at it, like, that's free money, dude. Who's gonna be better than him? Embiid? He's been runner up the past 2 years. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great bet. Honestly, I think it's gonna be fun. I definitely think he's gonna win MVP, and then the storylines that come with that, being a 3-time MVP. And there's this narrative around Jokic, and in a lot of ways Denver too, that like people just don't trust them. And especially in the playoffs, like defensively, they get really exposed, and Jokic is one of them. And so they're going to continue to be great for the rest of the year. they're probably going to be the second seed at the very least. Especially with these standings, I can't see them dropping below 2. There's just not enough time left, and unless there's some like bad injury, they're going to be relevant for the rest of the year. And if Jokic keeps putting up those numbers, man, it's going to be hard to deny that. And so I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point, especially with the way they're playing right now. They do look good.
Yeah, what do you think about comeback player of the year? Because you got who are the front runners again? Oh, I got to look at the standings. 1 sec. I think because was Lauri Markkanen, was he? I don't know if he was comeback, but
the running for most improved.
Most improved, right.
Yeah, I think is at the bottom of the play-in right now. It was interesting looking at their team this year because the whole drama of them trading Spida right over the summer. So people thought they were going to be sort of towards the bottom of the lottery, maybe be in contention for the guy across the pond, Victor Wembanyama, who looks like he's going to be an insane talent. But man, Lauri has been incredible this year. He's an all-star.
Dude, yeah, he's turning it around.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times these young guys just need time to settle in because transitioning from college to the NBA is a big transition. And a lot of these younger guys need a chance to settle in. That was the case with Lauri Markkanen for sure because he was on the Cavs and they dealt him away to Utah, right? He's on Utah.
Yeah.
So I think he just needed some time to settle in, man. That's just what to be said for a lot of guys too.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, or just a change of scenery. Like a player can be very coachable and work well with the coach and be a good teammate and whatnot. But sometimes, like your skill set and everything that comes with that is just not set to be with that specific team, and that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you're a bad player or whatnot. But Lauri's definitely found his future home for maybe the next 5-10 years in Utah.
Yeah.
But he's definitely going to be, if not at the top of that list, top 3 for most improved, and he deserves that.
Yeah, I got you. Now, boys, I know y'all are both D-gents. Who's been winning y'all money this season as far as NBA goes, or what bets have been rolling out that's been bringing y'all back some cash?
Oof. I've been hurting recently. I just missed this one that I had right now. Dude, fucking Spida Mitchell. What the hell is he doing? He's been struggling these past few games. I had him to score. He needed 20-plus points. This whole bet was going to hit. The score is right now 118-99 with 1 minute left. He just got subbed out, but the Cavs are covering 5. Darius Garland scored 24. Evan Mobley scored like 18. Spida scored 19 points. I needed him to score 20, and I would have won $66.
How much you put down?
$10.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't believe it.
One thing I will say is that, Brian, I know me like a couple weeks ago about how you kind of stay in the loop through betting and you kind of see who's playing and who's not. I don't know. I'd like to see another stat on this, but I would never bet on someone that just came back from injury. So, I'm excited.
Yeah, I should not have done that.
Tuesday. I want to think he's going to drop 30 and whatnot, but, him and Spida both had a groin strain injury, and Spida was out for, 4 or 5 games. And so I don't know how long he's been back. It's only been a couple games, but there's definitely a trend of coming back off a long injury. It's going to take at least a week to get back into the groove of things.
Yeah, and that's definitely spoken to it. He hasn't scored over 20 his past 3 or 4 games because I was looking.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, I looked after I placed the bet, so it was too late. But yeah, dude, I just have a Cavs bias, so that's that. But what else has been winning me money? I've been betting on some Bones Highland stuff. He's been pretty good for me. But let's see here. I also had a parlay the other day. It was a Cavs parlay. I got everything right, but Vucevic needed to get over 35.5 points, rebounds, plus assists. He got 35. I needed 35.5. So I lost. That was 15 to win 70 right there. I lost that. I'll just do a bunch of random player props, shit like that.
I think that's the best way to go about it. Especially this year, with just your money line. Like I said, there's a lot of parity, so you don't know what's going to happen on a night-to-night basis. So yeah, I think the safer side is definitely to play the player props.
And over-unders are just pure luck, I feel like. So at least, if, for example, my Cavs, if Mitchell's going to be out, Garland's going to take over the workload. So you can pretty much bet on that over. Now, the books know that too, but Garland is a pure scorer. He's going to get to the bucket. You have to find guys like that. Like, for example, like Luka. Now, maybe, I don't know how he's going to do with Kyrie. That'll be interesting to see how much distribution. I'm sure it's still going to be high. I'm sure he's still going to score a lot of points, but is it going to be as much as when Kyrie wasn't there? That's the question. So I don't know.
There will be some growing pains there for sure. You really want to start playing your best basketball when March starts, because the idea is, I mean, like I said, marathon, not a sprint. This is probably the 5th time I've said that shit. But for a lot of star players now, the regular season is becoming survival. And so once you get to about a month away from the playoffs, that's when you really want to start hitting your game. And so that was the thing that sucked last year, is the Suns were so dominant from start to finish. But about 3-4 weeks before the playoffs started, that's when they were definitely losing games that they shouldn't. And it's so easy to be like, well, you know, they've already clinched the 1 seed. They've already clinched home. They have 60-plus wins, like yada, yada, yada. If you're still playing shit basketball, like late March or early April, you don't want to be doing that come playoff time. And so I think that's another thing to bet on in terms of, like, futures betting. Like, teams that are going to get hot in the next 4 or 5 weeks, even if they're like the 4 or 5 seed, just keep your eye on them.
All right. Well, you said keep your eye on it. What kind of hot takes do you have that you can we can segment out of this podcast? I want both of y'all at least give some kind of hot take or something that you maybe feel strong on for the rest of the season going on. Because, like you said, this is a little bit past the midway point, and I guess too, well, the All-Star break, that's going to be coming up soon. So, yeah, just kind of everything about that.
Oh, you, Ryan.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Hot take. Ooh. This is going to be a really hot take. I'm going to stir the pot.
Let's get it spicy.
But I think Joel Embiid is not that guy.
Ooh.
I don't think he's I mean, he's good, don't get me wrong, but he's gotten second place in MVP both of the past couple of years, but look at the Sixers, man. What have they done playoff-wise? They just fucking suck. It's like they don't get anywhere. It's always been like Boston or Toronto the past couple of years, but like I don't know. I don't see a team, at least the Sixers wise. I don't know if it's Harden and the people Embiid has around him. He's a really good player. Like they beat the Sixers and Nuggets went head to head like a week ago, and Embiid hit that nasty step back 3 to win to basically seal the game. So I mean they can do it, and they can obviously do it. They proved it, but I don't know if something doesn't click when they hit playoffs, but I just think so. As long as Embiid is a Sixer, I don't think they make a deep playoff run.
I think that's a pretty good take, honestly. In a lot of ways, the NBA world views the Sixers and the Nuggets pretty similarly in how they're going to perform at playoff time. And so I'm kind of on the other side of that coin. I think Denver is going to be – it wouldn't surprise me if they were a second-round exit. Just because – like I mentioned earlier, like the last few years, they did have injuries with Jamal Murray and whatnot, but just defensively, man, like in the playoffs, it doesn't matter like what you've looked like and what sets you've run and everything. It's about matchups. And so there's a term that people use in the world, pigeon or cone. And that basically means is that guy sucks on defense. So when the Suns played the Nuggets a few years ago, Michael Porter Jr. is a cone. Jokic is a cone. And they're better this year. Like, Ryan, you mentioned Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, that like rookie or second year.
Out of Kansas, yeah.
KCP from Washington.
KCP, yeah.
They have better wing depth.
How about Aaron Gordon?
Aaron Gordon, yeah. I mean, there's an argument to be made that he's an all-star this year, especially with the Nuggets being first. But I've just seen them in the playoffs too many times, and I can't get the image of them just being like any team, especially like guys that are so dynamic, a dynamic backcourt like the Suns, like Chris Paul and Book just got whatever they want because, like I said, it's about matchups. CP3 is going to come off the screen instead of Jamal Murray guarding him. He's going to have the fat white dude guarding him, and he's just going to go past him and expose him. And so that's really what it comes down to in the playoffs are matchups. And like last year, the Suns were the 1st seed. New Orleans was the 8th seed. Shit, we almost lost that because it was a terrible matchup for us. I don't know if you guys remember that or whatnot, but that's really what it comes down to. And that's kind of my hot take is that the Nuggets are going to get exposed and the Suns are going to win the finals.
Ooh, Suns to the finals.
But I will say first, we're getting that guy, Kevin Durant.
KD.
Yeah, well, I
That's a hotter take than the Suns making the finals right there.
yeah, that is.
I don't know if he's going to the Suns. We'll
I'll
see.
lose my shit if that happens. That tweet is gonna hit like fucking crack.
Wait, all right, you can't say that. You can only say it only hits like crack if you ever done crack. So did you just confess on that live television that you done? Oh, he is a slidey boy. He is a slidey boy.
He went skiing.
Well, boys, I thought this was a really good podcast. Thank you, Leah, for coming on, taking your time to give us the advice. Yes, Gaddy, give a little hands up with the praise. But, yeah, definitely appreciate everything that you've done and just kind of giving the knowledge. This is what our Rethink Reality boys and girls need. And if y'all want to tune in to more stuff, just go and look us up on YouTube to get the visuals of all of the crew here tonight. And you can check us out on our TikTok, rethink_reality_. And I believe on Instagram it's just Rethink Reality. So, yeah, it's been a good one. Do y'all have anything closing remarks you'd like to say before we close this out?
Well, Pulley, I know your answer. Right.
Hold up, say that again.
You cut out there.
I said Pulliam. I know your answer. Eagles. Who's winning the Super Bowl, Ryan?
Oh, so it's funny. You see the wheel behind me? I don't know if you can see that. But so we had a little bet. So I can show you real quick. Hold on, let me get it. It's basically a punishment wheel. It's basically we have a spin. Pulliam thinks the Eagles are going to win, and I think the Chiefs are going to win. So whoever's right the other has to spin the wheel, and these are the punishments we have. Yeah,
just check out our TikTok. So I got one of his last punishments posted on there, and he swallows an egg, and it's funny as shit. But yeah, it's pickle. What all is on there? You can just call them out too as you see it.
It's a little blurry. Why is it so blurry? There we go. Pickle, cinnamon, a beer chug.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Egg. I mean, it's not too bad. Hot sauce. What is that one? That's like a whipped cream to the face. A free space. 25 on green. So it's just it's like small shit we do, but.
Yeah, I think once we get more people, we'll add stuff like you have to get a DUI. You got to go on LinkedIn. You got to post some crazy shit on LinkedIn. Like it's just a little like other stuff, but that's for when we get more viewers, you know.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, no, let's wrap her up. All right, you want to wrap it up? I know you're good at wrapping it up.
I don't wrap it up, right? No, I'm just kidding. All right, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks again, Leo. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Thanks, boys.